Good morning. I'm Lynette Adams, and this is Rochester in Focus. So nice to have you with us. We start the show this week with a compelling interview with retired RPD officer Moses Robinson. He just said goodbye to the job the last week of May after nearly 40 years. He's probably one of the most influential people to ever wear the RPD uniform. He has touched so many lives, and even out of uniform, he plans to continue to serve the Rochester community. That's our first two segments. Then we talk with two people from HCR Home Care about a new program created by nurse and HCR compliance coordinator Deanna McEwen called HCR Cares. It's a great program that takes health care to the homes of primarily African-American seniors 65 and older. This program is unique in that it partners with Black churches to help break down the barriers that have existed for decades between older African-American adults and healthcare providers. McEwen will be joined by Nate Shepard, HCR's Diverse Care Project Director. And finally, a conversation with Pastor Myra Brown of Spiritus Christi Church and Gloria Johnson-Hovey, who heads the Rock Juneteenth 5K Run and Walk. They fill in some of the blanks about a new civil rights heritage park named in honor of Minister Franklin Florence. It's an exciting project that has been in the works for about 8 years. You'll get the very latest on the park right here on Rochester in Focus. There are very few people in the city of Rochester who don't know Moses Robinson. For 39 and a half years, he wore the RPD uniform. But he was so much more than just a Rochester police officer. He has now retired and joining me to talk about this illustrious career and what's next. So let's start with the future and go back. Any thoughts about what you will do? We were just talking about it moments ago. What you will do now that you're retired.
I love what I do what I love. I think we have a wonderful community. That's my lens. Not a tremendously violent community, not a tremendously broken or hurt community, but we know that exists. So from my lens, it's always what can I do to help the people in the community, the leadership on the city level, state level. And so my work in the private industry, so to speak, professionally, is to help law enforcement officers understand the needs of the community they're supposed to serve and protect. One of the things I always say, people should never be afraid of the people who are supposed to protect them. The question becomes, do they understand the people they're supposed to protect?
Why did you want to become a police officer?
I didn't. That's a very good question. I grew up in North Philadelphia, and as I was talking with my brother last night, I told him about all the things that I had been through. And he was shocked, he was surprised. He was like, I didn't know those things about you. I didn't know you grew up in foster homes. I didn't know you grew up in gangs. I didn't know you witnessed domestic violence. I didn't know you did this and you did that. And so I didn't want to see the police. I didn't want to be the police, because if we saw the police in our neighborhood in the projects in Philadelphia, it wasn't going to be a good day. And so, ironically, I would have never thought, as a child, fearing the police, I would one day become the thing I feared. Yeah. But I joined the police department for opportunities. And I will always be the kind of person where I don't like complaining about the problem. I want to be the solution to the problem. It's easy to sit on the outside and continue to complain about your relationship, and I just use this sometimes in the relationship between a husband and a wife. Are we doing what we're saying we want from the other person? Sometimes we have to be the model. So as a brother, as an African American, I wanted to help our community get what they deserve. And we deserve the protection, we deserve proper policing, so I grew into that.
Anything that sticks in your mind is maybe one of your proudest moments as a police officer, or something that means a lot to you?
Sure. I am proud to hear people say, that I became a police officer because of you. If that is true, then I just want you not just to be a officer, I want you to be a community officer. And the African American, Latino community, Latinx community, in the poor community, Lowell Avenue, these areas, people need help. Our people really, really need help. And part of that legacy of being able to change their way of thinking, their way of seeing the police way of seeing them, is to really change the way we see each other. The liaison work is so strategically important that when the crisis happens, we want the right people at the right time in the right position to do the right thing.
And that was your job. Your last job was community liaison. Tell us what that meant in terms of what was your responsibility?
So being put in that position, I was in the middle. I was in the middle between the community and I was in the middle between law enforcement. And so being in the middle at the present time, people didn't know how to take me. Mostly the community loved me, but it was a challenge in law enforcement. And so one of the things I've always grown up believing, which the scripture talks about, and I kept this in my heart, you'll be loved by some, you'll be hated by others. And so I had to choose, and I chose to be me.
Because policing was a calling, it wasn't a job, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll be right back. We're talking with Moses Robinson, who just took off the uniform after 39 and a half years with the Rochester Police Department, retired or rewired, depending on how you look at that. And I said to you, why not just go 40? You were almost at 40. And you said they wouldn't let me. If I could have, I would have. You loved being a police officer.
I would have stayed for the rest of my life. Because for me, I need human connection. You know, my human connections start with my children. You know, I love my children. I love them so much. Oh, don't get me started. So that's the first connection. That has to be the most valid, the most real connection there is. And then that rolls out to other children in our community, which being an SRO gave me the blessing of being in a building with so many children, 2,000 kids. That's a community. And I oftentimes have become the father that many of those babies, those wonderful children didn't see. Some of our kids, their fathers have passed away. Now this is at East High School. You know, so it's a pretty challenging, high risk, because our children there are high risk, you know, in terms of things that may have happened to them, things that could happen to them, violence in the community. So for me, it was an opportunity, and this is the key, to do for other children what wasn't done for me.
What do you mean by that? Did you grow up not around your father, not having the love of your father?
No, I grew up in foster homes. I came to Rochester when I was 12 years old. So I've always had some abandonment issues, I guess. You know, I'm sorry, I did. But I think, and now that I'm saying this, and it's funny because this is the enlightenment process, is that now I know why some of the things I did had that human connection, you know, and still at this point feeling that. But I think for the most part, being an SRO, working in the community, gave me the opportunity to be, you know, to heal. And I thank the community for allowing me to share that with them. And so that's a privilege. And you don't violate that. You know, that's a sacred position to be in with our community, is to feel what they're feeling and share that feeling and heal both of us, and at the same time building trust and positive relationships. Yeah.
Moses, what would your advice be to young people who maybe are traveling a road similar to yours?
I think we have programs in the city of Rochester with very talented people. Rise Up Rochester, Wanda Ridgeway, different programs that are out there that are connecting with youth to help them change and process the way they think. But most importantly, how they're dealing with their pain. See those kids out there that are doing all these things like stealing cars and getting in the gangs and do all of this stuff. Adults so misunderstand them. They really don't understand that this delinquency behavior that our babies are displaying, it's the language that they speak to tell our community we need adults. We need to be connected. We need to find out, why are we here? What is that pathway to get us back or get us on so we can start doing positive behavior? So my advice to young people is get with a caring adult. Find a caring adult. Get with that adult and have that adult mentor you. Look at teen empowerment. Look at the work they're doing. There are programs that children can get into, but we as adults have to direct them to those programs because, they need them. But the first thing is we have to listen to them.
I was going to say, so what's the advice to the adults then?
Listen. Listen to your kids. Because even that's a scriptural term. Old man shall dream dreams, but young men shall have vision. Let them tell you what their vision is. Listen to their vision. Don't dismiss it. Don't say, oh, that's not good. No, that's not true. That's their dream. Create a pathway for them to get to that dream. People oftentimes, because of the situation, be like, don't be a cop. You shouldn't be a police officer. And they may be dismissing the very strategy or the very solution that our community needs.
We'll be right back. Today, we're talking about a program called HCR Cares. What is that all about? Well, it's a program helping predominantly African Americans gain trust of the healthcare system and access all of the services that they are entitled to. And today, we're learning all about it. Nate Shepard is the Diverse Care Project Director with HCR Home Care. And Deanna McEwen created this program, and she is also a compliance nurse and just wears a whole lot of different hats, it sounds like. Thank you so much for being here to tell us about this program.
Thank you for having us.
What is HCR Cares? Give us an overview of this program and what it's all about.
HCR Cares is our non-for-profit organization that's attached to HCR Home Care. This particular program, the Diverse Care Initiative, was designed to help Black seniors in particular get access to the healthcare system. Our Black seniors are our most vulnerable population, but they're also our most valuable population. And one thing that we're very big on is allowing our seniors, or helping our seniors rather, to be able to age in place, which means that they can get services in the comfort of their own home, have family involvement, be able to be safe, and just have a better quality and quantity of life. And we have found that seniors who are able to be in their own homes and be in their own community actually live longer, they thrive better. If they do have an illness that befalls them, they're able to heal much faster just by having that familiar support.
And what I think is so unique about this program is that you are going through churches. You have brought them into the conversation, and you're utilizing what a church means to people in their lives, right?
So basically what we have done is we partnered with the churches here in the Rochester area. It's about 130 churches. We currently have about 20 that are in our core church list, and we meet with them on a regular basis. As we bring more churches into it, we also do outreach to many of these churches, as well as we do trainings for many of the churches. Deanna, being a nurse, she's very involved in the training side of it as well.
Let me just ask you, Deanna, what made you, how did you see this big hole, this big gap that existed that you wanted to close up? We were talking about COVID, but what were some of the glaring realities?
Well, I think it hit very close to home during COVID. I had a friend who was only in her 40s who went in with COVID symptoms, tested positive, only to find out that she was a diabetic and had kidney failure, and she had no idea, and she died. And that really hit close to home to me, because I thought, and she was also in the medical field, and I thought, how is it that you didn't know you were a diabetic? How did you not know that you had something going on with your kidneys? And even though I'm a healthcare professional, I have to admit that there's times that I've been afraid to go to the doctor because of what we've been through as a community, as Black people. People can say, oh, that's in the past, but it's current. It's very present. It's very real. There are people who will say that they do not get the best care from other providers simply because they're stereotyped, they're dismissed, they're not heard. Studies have shown this very thing. And you know, I could sit here and complain about how unfair life can be for us as Black people, but if I just complain and don't do anything, then what good is it? So I thought about this program on how we could really get out in the community and bring awareness to actually getting healthcare services and letting people know that if you have insurance, it will cover these services in your home where you can be comfortable, where you can feel safe. And so I talked to the owner of HCR Home Care, who actually started the home care agency. And I told her my idea, and Louise Warner, she was so thrilled to be a part of it, and she really helped push this initiative.
What's the overall goal?
Taking the data to see if we can move the needle as far as getting more African Americans the health care that they need through the faith-based community. Once the project is completed, we'll write a paper, publish the paper, and then utilize that to create other pilots around the organization as well as the area, hopefully the country.
So your goal is to start here, see how well it works,
See how well it works,
and
right.
keep going. I love this program. It is so needed, so long overdue. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Creating a civil rights park in Rochester is not a dead idea. In fact, you haven't heard much about it, but a lot has been going on behind the scenes. And there are plans for a Franklin D. Florence Civil Rights Heritage Park. And today I'm talking with Gloria Johnson-Hovey, who is the chairperson of the Juneteenth, the Rock Juneteenth 5K run and walk, as well as Pastor Myra Brown, who is the pastor of Spiritus Christi Church. There is a plan for a park possibly breaking ground by the end of this year. First, Gloria, talk about why it's important to have this park in Rochester.
Being the home of Frederick Douglass and Anna Douglass, their legacy here, it's very fitting, and it's about time. So my excitement came from, creating a 5K and then landing with Reverend Myra to support it through the contributions and people's participation in the 5K run and walk to support this. And the way that the community itself can build this park. So that's very much, the history of it. A run walk, honoring Harriet Tubman. Did she run? Did she walk? And so the symbolism is not lost on the journey of this. And so, yes, supporting this park and looking forward to the groundbreaking, because there's been a great amount of time and energy and great people working towards seeing this come to fruition.
So this is going to be at Baden Park. That's the location. Talk a little bit about why that was chosen and what we can expect to see in this park.
I mean, I think it was chosen because, we know the history of the migration from the South, and Black people were only allowed to live in certain areas within the city. And so there's a whole history around that. But then there's, this area in 14605 is where the uprisings of '64 happened, right? It's where whole communities, right, were struggling with inadequate employment. They were struggling with food insecurity. They were struggling with not having quality housing. They were struggling against police violence. They were struggling against community violence. And there were so many needs. And you had whole community, and that just was not being attended to. And, and it kind of imploded rather, in 1964. And that's when, the city started to pay attention to the conditions of Black people in Rochester.
Then who might we see, or what might we see in the park?
So you'll see some public art, certainly the names of the final people who will start with. This park will be done in phases. And so we don't quite at this stage know like all of the names of the people that will be in there, because we want to hear from the community on, you know, their stories and who they think should be in it. And we'll have to create a process of, you know, who we can start with. We hope it to be a park that can be added on to in phases as we raise more funds for the public art in the park. But people can expect to see an amphitheater. They can expect to see a legacy walk where people who have been voices for justice, who have been freedom fighters, maybe they have family stories of people who are memorable in the work that they did and how they stood up. They can buy a brick with that person's name on it and have that person be part of the park. They can expect to have you know, benches and places where we can gather and actually have some civic dialogue. They can expect to be a place that can be a gathering place for the community and perhaps have community events at the park.
How can people in the community get involved? How can they help make sure that this happens, that they're a part of it in some way?
They can look for the next community meetings, come to those and tell those stories. They can come to the 5K, run, walk, and register for the Rock Juneteenth 5K. They can join us for the jazz concert, and they can reach out to me. I would love to hear from people about, you know, what stories are you carrying? And what do we need to know? What else do we need to know as we're thinking about creating an outdoor civil rights heritage park?
This is exciting. It really is. Thank you for coming and telling us about it and keeping the community informed.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
We'll be
Thank you
right
for
back.
having us.
The Rock Juneteenth Run and Walk is this Thursday on June 19th. We have a link to sign up at WHEC.com. Go to the Rochester in Focus tab under the Watch tab. Thank you to all of our guests today. And if you would like to join us as a guest, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach the News 10 NBC Newsroom at 232-1010, or you can send us an email at rif@whec.com. That's all the time we have. If you want to know how your neighbors and friends are making a difference in Rochester, join us every Sunday morning for Rochester in Focus right here on News 10 NBC.